Hello. So, adventures in 3D printing. I've done a bit. I am by no means skilled. I really just push buttons, man. Of course, I say that about a lot of things. I don't know. I got a Signum. I got the Signum footprint transferred into a 3D, into a CAD program, and I'm using Tinkercad, which is really easy to model this stuff in. I got the Signum all laid out, and I got what I thought was all the dimensions correct. I do have all the angles correct, but there's like 1 millimeter missing off the length. So I'm gonna redo that and test it, and I'm not positive if that was just some PLA shrinkage. There's not supposed to be very much, but also the dovetail that I designed, that fancy number 3, was pretty difficult to get installed, and I'm not sure if that's just elephant's foot, where it kind of spreads on the bottom a little bit, or if I need to upscale that fitting a little bit. The other alternative is to just make a flat fit, and then glue or fuse the two halves together with acetone. This is using PLA Plus. So, it did pretty well. It stood up to a beating. Getting those pieces to snap together. But once they did, they're snug. If anything, they're tight. They're too tight. Yeah, I don't know. And I don't really know if there's supposed to be just a little bit of fitting involved. Again, this is all really premature. I'm probably far too new to the 3D printing to be like, well, obviously, we need to start fixing this in software when my hardware could be less than optimized. So far I've had 2 failed prints, and they were both of the same object, or same item. And I'm curious if so I set up a whole bunch of, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. There's these chain link things where you make these linkages and they fit together, and then there's clasps on the bottom ends to hold, to engage the linkages. So, being the enterprising efficiency expert that I am, I just plopped a whole bunch of them onto the same set of printing thingies. If I'm saying, like, when I have prints that take 15 minutes, and I have a whole bunch that take 15 minutes, and I have 8-hour blocks of time where I'm at work, I'm just going to put all those 15-minute ones on the same 3D space, and then run them as one printing. So I did that with these chain linkages, and the results are not good. Like I said, only 2 of the prints have failed, and it's the same print that I'm running. So I'm guessing there's some miscalculation in the G code or something, where it runs across another item and then it bumps it, or bumps something in the way, and knocks over one of them, and then from there it's just, String City, Spaghetti City. So maybe I'll try moving some of those items around, or I'll try, well, the right thing to do is isolate the problem. So I'll print out individual linkages, and just make sure my printer can print those, and it's not a fault with the design. Because the linkages are coming out mostly just fine. It's the little supports that seem to be crashing. So I'll find out. Or the clasps that seem to be crashing. I am going to put together a low-profile Signum case that the board just... Like, it was so... It was a really good feeling when I put the circuit board on top of the case that I designed for it. And I shifted it a little bit, and it just went... It just kind of plopped right down into place. And I was like, ah, ha, ha, ha. This is the sound of doing things the correct way. But the other side was, again, like a millimeter short. And I could flex it to fit in there, but then the whole case goes like this. It bends up in the middle. Yeah, it bends up in the middle. Which doesn't really work. It's Gendo. Aside from that, it's a tight fit and a good fit, and it sits. It's really comfy. I don't know. I like it. I like it a lot. Anything that would really lend rigidity to the board is going to be welcome. Let's see. Well, that's right before the split. I guess it doesn't really matter. That's a good idea. Okay. So I have my next step, so I'm gonna do that. I've kind of reached the end of the 3D printing starter pack kind of thing. Like the first few, most of what you print is just like, hey, here's some cool prints. Here's things you can print that are cool. I haven't even gotten to the fun the firearm stuff yet. Oh, I did print a rail, which was pretty helpful because I had a 22 that needed a light. So I printed a rail out, and it came out really nicely, and everything mounted, and the light was very comfortable and easy to access. So that was pretty cool. But there's more stuff I want to print. But once you follow through on some of these videos, you eventually reach a point where it starts talking about, 3D printing, is it worth it? Like, does it make sense to get it? What is the real use? And it seems to be a failure of imagination, I think. Because people are like, oh, well, I printed out a bunch of trinkets with my 3D printer, and now I don't know what to do with it. Like, bro, that's your problem. Like, lacking creativity and lacking inspiration when you have the internet at your disposal. That's all you, man. Hey-oh, there we go. There was I'm pretty sure it was on my driving test. It was a test that covered hydroplaning, and it was a multiple choice question, and it was what do you do when your car is hydroplaning? And it was steer into the skid, steer out of the skid, let go of the wheel, or no, something was tap the brakes or something, and then the last one was release the wheel and let your car become the plane it always knew it could be. I don't even know if the audio is coming through on this. I just feel like I'm yelling in the rain, which I am actually, technically. So useful prints. The Raspberry Pi print. I printed a Raspberry Pi Zero case that holds the Raspberry Pi and the camera in a nice little package. And I'm actually using that to monitor the 3D printer, which is pretty meta. I like it. But one of the most popular mods, popular things to print, it seems, is mods for your 3D printer. So, like, I'm still in the keyboard community, and I know there's lots of people printing other stuff, I really like what the Num Atreus is doing. It's a Japanese dude I follow on Twitter. And he printed a nice 3D base for his PCB. PCB design. I should say PCB plateless design. That was pretty cool. And I've got other little odds and ends, little products I'm working on, and little prototypes I'm working with that would benefit from having some 3D printing case, you know, something to just even out the rough edges. But to be able to print a case and get a PCB run pretty cheap and have, you know, not just a working prototype, but an almost well, it is a sellable product. I mean, I know I gotta get back on those PCB designs. I need to build that, or design that adapter board, and then design this little board I'm making for that ESP32 with the little keyboard on it. Oh, right. So, useful prints. I printed out a set of shelf brackets. And my house is pretty old, and it had these drawers that were like injection molded, and they rode on these little like sliders instead of rails. And the sliders were by just, you know, plastic garbage. And because they just split right down the middle. But I just could not find replacements for it. And I didn't even know what to search. So the alternative was to like upgrade the shelves, or upgrade the drawer to like something modern, and have that drawer alone be set up like that. But also the drawer itself is made of plastic. It's injection molded, so you can't bond to it, and you can't really like run screws through it very easily without worrying about splitting the whole thing. So I was kind of at a loss of what to do, although now that I think about it, I would probably do this is why I do this. This is part of why I do this, is I get to talk out loud, and then I get to think about all this stuff, and then weird stuff flies into my head. I would probably glue, like surface glue, wood to the side, and then I would screw into that wood. I would mount the hardware to that wood. That's pretty ridiculous. It would work. Alright, well, anyways, I went on Thingiverse and I was like, oh yeah, maybe that exists here. If not, I'll design one. And then it's like, it took me like 3 seconds to find literally the exact one. And I was like, okay, well clearly someone else had this problem. So I printed out a couple of those, and I had to expand the hole in my drawer a little bit larger to accommodate. But I just popped them in, man, and it worked. And we'll see how they run. It's not like a load-bearing part or anything. So, like, even if I had to, I would run it again at 100% infill, but at 20%, it's just running. So, it's like something that is not replaceable, not producible, not purchasable. What lane is this person in? The bike lane. There we go. Now there's a lane there, sir. Lane. Oh no, I'm wrong. There isn't even a lane. This is still the bike lane. Fantastic. And he gets out of the lane now, when it becomes a lane. Okay. This is great. Everyone's having a great time. Everyone's having a great time. How do you honk at someone to turn right, so instead of you turning left? I don't know. So I printed out 3 pocket chip keyboards. And the third one was a charm. I printed out the super simple one which is like a slip cover kind of thing. And that worked so well that I was like, all right, I'm going to get the good one. And I printed out the good one, and I hated it. And I'm like, I'll go for the medium one. And the medium one was just right. Goldilocks and the 3 pocket chip 3D printable keyboards. Alright, so let's see what we're gonna do here. I think I'm gonna try to continue this, so let's see if I can break this. Oh, this is super important here. The DS stylus. Plus you get a spot of orange on the back. Right, so I'm gonna pause this and see if it doesn't crash my phone, and maybe I'll get to pick it up later, or pick it up after I get back. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay. I think that worked. So yeah, useful 3D prints. I will be the first to admit much of what is being printed today is frivolous, you know, not super useful. It's like, it would be very difficult to produce this out of steel or, you know, aluminum. So the 3D printer is an excellent opportunity, or excellent alternative for that. But there seems to be just a severe lack of creativity just in general, I think. Hackaday, which I don't really think is that great right now, might not be the best example. Hackaday has these things that it tweets out every once in a while of like, well, today it was a Skittle sorting machine, and it was like, this is what the technology is being used for. Like, we've got access to the internet, we've got programmable microchips for dirt cheap, basically. Everything's super accessible. We have 3D printers, home manufacturing, and the object that people come away with is like, but I can use a computer to sort my high fructose corn syrup by color. Like, yes, awesome. Except no, it's the opposite of that. We should be doing, you know, I wouldn't begrudge it if it was like, that was every once in a while there was like a funny thing. It's like, oh, here's a little highlight reel, like, oh, someone made a Skittle sorting machine. That's kind of funny. Nope. But meanwhile, let's get back to the real stuff. Have all this potential and opportunity built into these tools, and all we've got is like is trash. It's garbage. It's stupidity. It's frivolity. It's masturbation. It's nonsense. Whoa. Okay. To be fair, I don't think he could see the lanes. And I realized this because I couldn't see the lanes. There we go. Like, I look at what I'm doing, and like I'm trying to make this, well, I have my objectives, and I'm trying to fulfill them using the tools that I have. You know, I'm buying components, and from those components, you know, we have access to buy these components, and from these components I'm building something new. We have access to these tools to design these things, and with these tools, with this access, I'm designing something new. And you know, my intention, you know, I don't know how noble it is, but you know, I just want people to keyboard better. You know, I'm not you know, 3D printing cold fusion or anything. I'm not liberating the masses. But if you gave me a good plan for doing that, that could be accomplished with circuit boards, electronic components, and 3D printing, then oh yeah, definitely. You know, this is very empowering technology. And all that people seem to be focusing on is the funny stuff on the fringes. Well, my concern is that there just isn't much funny, or rather, my concern is that the funny stuff on the fringes is being reported because that's all there is. Because it's not on the fringe, it's all funny stuff. It's all frivolity. What is it? There's nothing new under the sun. It's all nonsense. I guess the I guess the people on the fringe are the people doing the actual work, or the actual productive, interesting stuff. I don't know. This might just be me, you know, yelling at a cloud, but old man yells at internet cloud. It's not a cloud, it's just someone else's computer. Like, I don't know, maybe someone makes these silly projects and then gets inspired to do other things. But I just don't see the call, the drive toward bettering our human existence or ameliorating suffering. Or in my case, or what I would like to do is just empower the individual more. Now imagine, let's see, food is kind of a big focus for me. Tools and electronics that facilitate, that make it easy for you to take care of livestock and take care of poultry. Take care of your garden. Things that have reminders, things that check soil pH and temperature and stuff like that. And little gardening bots or something. Oh, okay. Something that would, like, translate into you paying out less money per month. Like, really put money back in your pocket. And by put money back in your pocket, I mean, like, you don't have to spend it. Well, that one's much better. Never was a fan of blueberries, though. So you can look at your expenses and see where you can reduce them, or rather, where technology can help you reduce them. You know, my focus has been using the technology to apply my logical processes automatically, so that I have less decision making, less thinking time, and more product. And that's keeping track, that's, you know, updating code and keeping track of changes and stuff like that. Keeping track of tasks, very important for me. And I mean, that's designed to earn more money, to work more. But the other side of the coin is, you know, how low can you get your expenses? You know, if you take your grocery bill and cut it in half, you know, what benefit do you have? How much better are things? I mean, there's other stuff like building your own things and fixing your own things, obviously. Well, this one guy had one of his top useful 3D prints was a some kind of slider unit for his refrigerator. He had like a double door refrigerator, and it closed, and then the hinge like latched in this little locking system. And that's one of those things that, like, buying the part is either extremely expensive or not possible. And to be able to 3D print something like that, you're taking an entire appliance that would be basically either hobbled to uselessness or entirely useless, and you're repairing it with this technology, with a 3D print or something like that. Let's see. That book, the book, The Innovators, had a lot to talk about in the end about the human-machine symbiosis. And Elon Musk, as much as I'm kind of down on him at this point, he had talked about this as far as, cyborgs and us being cyborgs. And he said we already are cyborgs because we're interfacing with this technology very easily. And obviously, making that interface as seamless as possible is going to be the next goal, or the biggest goal. But it is not lost on me that I'm able to use text as a storage for information and ideas and stuff that I don't always visit, or definitely things I don't always remember, but things I remember so infrequently it would make no sense to memorize, to keep in my brain. And the other thing is that probably the most important thing, perhaps, is the perfect memory. And the perfect memory of a digital camera, to be able to take a picture and then review that picture whenever necessary. I actually had it was kind of funny. I took a picture of the label on my router, which is what I normally do. So it had my SSID and pre-shared key on it, WPA key. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, I'll have this for later. And then later I had to get into the router to do something, and it said that there was an admin login, and I'm like, admin login? I don't remember an admin login. So the regular WPA password didn't work. I'm like, well, maybe it's on the label. So I went back to my picture that I took of the label, and the picture, sure enough, included other information on it. It was a kind of a farther away shot. So it actually had that, a little area that had the admin password noted in it. And I took a picture of it and didn't know that I had taken a picture of it. So think about that. The idea that you can have not only perfect memory, but reference for data you didn't even know you would need. And that's kind of the point of this storage becoming so inexpensive. You have the ability to store so much of this stuff almost indefinitely and basically free. Especially if you maintain the text layout, or textual data. I have like addresses and phone numbers from years and years ago that I'm probably never going to use again. But on that off chance, I can put in a couple search terms on that document, on that file, and it'll get me back to that phone number pretty quickly. So if for any reason I have to recall that phone number, it's there. And again, it doesn't cost me anything to have it there. Especially with org mode, because it's not clutter. I'm able to collapse other things, so I'm only looking at one thing in a hierarchical view. So this stuff is extremely useful, and the potential for improving that human-machine interface. I've thought about this, like making custom interfaces, making things that tap on your hand to let you know things. You could even do like a Morse code thing that would tap on your hand. You'd have to think about it, focus on it to think about what you're receiving, the data you're receiving. But imagine being able to read Braille, and then having one of those Braille terminals. And I don't want to, I don't think it's necessarily great to information overload, or even really to intentionally distract yourself. But imagine you get some new data coming across and you feel it start to move, and you put your fingers down onto the Braille terminal and you read the text that you're receiving. And meanwhile, your eyes are still straight forward. You might even be talking to someone or even listening to someone. Hey, you might be driving. And you've basically felt what your text message is, or felt what your computer is reporting to you. Whatever status update. You've received that through your fingertips without averting your eyes or anything. So there's potential for so much different stuff. Just part of the problem is, I'm stuck in, I've said this before, I'm stuck in my own paradigms because, the fish doesn't know what water is. The fish is immersed in water. The fish doesn't have a concept of water. I don't know what paradigms I have in me. I don't know what things I'm taking for granted because I take them for granted. What was I even talking about? 3D printing. I think there will come a time when some much improved ideas start to form, and people will say, oh wow, I could do that on a 3D printer. I could recreate something like that. And this is all soft stuff. Like if someone comes up with an idea and they publish it, then someone can reproduce something like that on a 3D printer. All right, I gotta go.